Today we are going to learn about formal and informal English. What is language? Before we go to that topic, let us look at it. Is a medium through which we communicate with others. So, without language we cannot communicate with others, and when we use language we think of language as correct or incorrect, because language has some grammar and everybody should use that grammar when they write or speak. And language is made of different kinds of sentences. As we know very well, there are 4 kinds of sentences in English, and the first one is assertive or declarative or a statement. And see here some examples. I am in the classroom. We are going to celebrate our Independence Day on 15th August. So, these two are the assertive sentences, and the second one is imperative sentence. Look at the example: close your books, attend your classes regularly, do not come late. So, these are the imperative sentences. You may find the difference between assertive and imperative sentences. Generally, assertive sentences start with a subject, say noun or pronoun, but whereas imperative sentences start with a verb, and there are commands, wishes, etc. And now, look at the next one, the imperative sentence. Again there are some more examples here. Wish you all success, may God bless you. Here the first one is an order, the second one is a suggestion, and the third one is also a suggestion or order, and the fourth one is a wish, and the last one is a prayer. So, like this all these examples start with a verb. Now, the third one is the interrogative sentence. Interrogation means questioning. So, here you will find some examples. Where are you now? And is your class big? And did you go to college yesterday? When you observe the examples, the first one starts with a WH word, and there are so many other words like what, which, when, where, how, whose, whom, etc. All these words generally are used to put questions to others. The second one is starting with an auxiliary verb. Is your class big? Is a verb, and the third one is also an auxiliary verb. Did you go to college yesterday? So, like this there are some kinds of interrogative sentences. The fourth one is the exclamatory sentence. Look at the examples here. How sunny it is today, and what a nice picture it is. How horrible the accident is. If you observe, these sentences generally start with how or what, and the subject and verb generally appear at the end of the sentence. Here in the first example, in all the examples is verb is at the end, before that we find the subject. Now, there are some other sentences in English. The simple sentence. Look at the examples. I am an Indian, meet a doctor, how are you? These are all simple sentences where you find a verb in each sentence. In the first sentence you have a subject, in the second sentence you do not find the subject, and the third one there is a verb. So, a simple sentence generally contains a single verb, a single subject, and sometimes a single predicate. Without predicate generally we do not find any sentence. How beautiful the picture is. Here also you find a single verb, and it is a simple sentence. Now, look at another kind, the compound sentence. Look at the examples. I am an Indian, but he is an American. Meet a doctor and take medicine, sit down or go away. Here you will find two sentences in the first sentence. I am an Indian, he is an American. These two sentences are combined together with a conjunction but, and in the second sentence you will find two imperative sentences combined together with a conjunction and the third one is also an imperative sentence combined with or, sit down or go away. If you remove the conjunction, you will find two independent clauses, what we call generally main clauses or independent clauses. a compound sentence may contain two minimum or more main clauses or independent clauses combined together with conjunctions. Now, let us look at another one, the complex sentence. Complex means it is a difficult in structure, that is why we call it a complex sentence. Look at the examples here. I like music which is melodious. Here the first part, I like music, is a main clause, and the second part is underlined part is a subordinate clause which is melodious. In the second sentence, meet a doctor who is a specialist, there also you will find a main clause and a subordinate clause. In the third one, sit down where you like, sit down is main clause and where you like is a subordinate clause. So, a complex sentence may contain one at least a main clause or independent clause and one or more subordinate clauses, then we call it a complex sentence. Now, look at another one, some other kind of sentence is the compound complex sentence. That means, in this sentence you will find the qualities of a compound sentence and a complex sentence also. Look at the first one, I like music which is melodious, but she likes pop music. Here you will find two main clauses, I like music, she likes pop music, and you will find a subordinate clause which is melodious and a conjunction but. So, it is a mixture of two main clauses and a subordinate clause. So, we call it a compound complex sentence. And in the second sentence, meet a doctor who is a specialist, there you find a main clause and a subordinate clause, and another main clause, take his advice, and there is a conjunction. So, it is also a compound complex sentence. Generally, every sentence has a structure. Just to remind you, I am showing this. In the simple sentence, generally you find a subject, verb and object, and sometimes in imperative sentence you will find a verb and then object or an adverb, and in a question generally you will find the WH word and auxiliary verb, and after that a noun or pronoun with a question mark at the end of it. In the fourth one, that is an exclamatory kind of sentence, where the sentence starts with how or what, and after that an adjective and a noun or pronoun and auxiliary verb ending with an exclamatory mark. So, like this you will find the sentences and their structure. Now, let us come to the topic formal or informal language. What is formal language? Particular language structures can be called formal or informal, appropriate or inappropriate for a specific context. Generally, a particular kind of language which we use in our day to day life, and when we write something with proper structures can be called formal or informal, and sometimes the formal language may not be appropriate in a context, and informal language may not be appropriate in another context. So, we have to know where we should formal language and where we should use informal language. Now, look at the next one. Mostly formal language is written and informal language is spoken, and spoken language is constantly changing, and new words are added always, and old words are forgotten in usage, new coinage of words and new expressions may come, and people use the informal language as the days go by, and it is always dynamic, language is always dynamic. But in written language or in formal language, we always follow the grammar rules, and without that formal language will be wrong. Now, look at this. Formal language generally contains long sentences and strict grammar rules and difficult vocabulary you find in written language or formal language, whereas in informal language or spoken form mostly less strict in grammar rules, and shortened sentences or abbreviations will be used in informal language. Now, look at this. Formal language is the style of language used in official or public notices, business situations and polite conversations with strangers, literary and academic matters. So, formal language is a style of language used in official. When we go to an officer, we use formal language, and when we write some public notice, we use formal language, and in business situations also, and when we speak to others in a polite manner, the conversation will be formal, and particularly with strangers, and in literary and academic matters also we use formal language. There informal language is not acceptable. Now, look at this one. He is going to meet his friend is a sentence which is right, and this is a written form of language, and in the second sentence he is going to meet his friend. So, in the written language the second type of sentence is not acceptable, and the second sentence is acceptable only in informal situation when we speak to our friends or other people. Okay. Now, look at these examples. Raja has received the letter. Here the sentence contains present perfect tense, and generally in formal language complete tense or present perfect tense is used. In the second sentence, Raja received the letter. In this sentence we do not find when he received the letter. That is why there is a problem of getting the meaning in a correct way. So, we need to use an adverb phrase of time, and it is very much needed. So, we have to say Raja received the letter yesterday, then it will be complete and we get the complete meaning. So, in formal language we have to be very perfect in grammar usage. Now, look at these examples. Do you want to go to the park is a formal way of asking, and if it is informal, you want to go to the park is informal way or a spoken form of a thing. Now, so deletion of words like do in the second sentence are not acceptable when you use in a formal way or when you write something in the formal manner. So, we have to remember this. Now, let us look at the another one. Different vocabulary is generally used in formal language. Here please refrain from smoking is formal, and whereas please do not smoke is informal. Here the word refrain is somewhat difficult to understand by a layman or even not very much educated students. So, we have to know the different or difficult vocabulary, then only we can understand formal language, otherwise we find it somewhat difficult, but a layman and an ordinary man can easily understand please do not smoke. So, when we say the second kind of sentence, generally anybody can easily understand. Now, look at the another example. You must abide by the rules. This is a formal way of writing, and where you find abide by a verb with preposition. In the second sentence you must follow the rules. Suppose if I say the first one to a layman, he cannot understand, but if I say the same idea in the second way, you must follow the rules, he can easily understand. So, in some context the formal way of saying is not acceptable, but the informal way is more appropriate and easy for others to understand. Now, look at this. Informal is used for friends, co-workers, among family members, or service staff at a restaurant, for example. So, informal is used with friends, co-workers, among family members. So, it is acceptable there in such situations. Now, look at this one. Here you will find an informal way of saying you want to go to the movie tonight. Here you do not find the exact subject and verb, but it is a condensed form, and if it is to be written or if it is to be formal, you have to say in the second way, do you want to go to the movie tonight, but spoken English, in spoken English you want to go to the movie tonight is acceptable. Okay. There is another example here, I do not know, informal, but if it is to be formal, I do not know. you have to say I do not know, but in spoken English you can say I do not know. Generally in Britain and America, the spoken forms are very much used and they can easily understand because they know it very well, whereas in our Indian context generally we do not know this kind of language. That is why our students and we generally find it difficult to understand the spoken form of English, particularly in movies and when some foreigner speaks to us. So, in the second another example, I cannot speak English is I can't speak English is informal and I cannot speak is formal. So, you will find some condensed form of the verb I cannot, I can't. So, it is informal, whereas the second part is formal, I cannot speak, and that can be used in written English. Now, look at this different vocabulary. Another usage, that sucks or their new CD sucks. It is entirely new to us, the word sucks. Generally suck has a different meaning, but here it is it means that is too bad, that means the CD is not good or it is not working well. So, people say in formal way that sucks, but if it is to be formal, that is too bad, that is how we have to say. So, a different vocabulary will be used in informal language. Informal language or spoken language, as I have been telling you, different vocabulary. Here look at these examples, that is sweet is informal, that is great is formal. Here great is somewhat exaggeration, whereas sweet is a common thing which anybody can easily understand. So, we find the vocabulary entirely different from formal to informal. Now, let us look at this one, informal language versus formal language. So, when do you use informal and or formal language? Both are acceptable in many situations. People understand both with a few mistakes. Generally in informal language we find some mistakes, whereas in formal language we do not find mistakes, because we follow the grammar rules, because as it is a written form generally we use grammar strictly, but in informal language that is not so. So, even though there are some mistakes, people can easily understand the content of the speech or content of the language and they can come forward to respond to us. Now, look at these examples. I have made less mistakes is informal and I have made fewer mistakes is formal. Here less is used in informal, but whereas fewer is used in formal, because that is the correct way of using the word fewer with mistakes, but less is not appropriate in formal context. Now, look at another example, she is liking it is for informal, whereas she likes it is formal. She is liking, here like cannot be used in continuous tense. So, that is wrong in one way, but in informal way it is acceptable, but when you write it you have to say she likes it, that is the formal or the correct way of using. Another example, now look at I feel real good. Here also the word real is not appropriate in that context if it is formal. So, if it is to be written correctly, I feel really good. So, really an adverb should be used in that way, but in spoken English I feel real good is acceptable. Now, look at some tips in using language. So, just when you use, generally you have to listen to the other person who is using that language, and using formal language is always the safest thing in the society, and particularly with the strangers and higher officials, and you have to listen to the others when you first met them, how they are speaking, what kind of language they are using, whether they are using formal language or informal language, then only you can respond in the same way, so that the others can also receive you well, and what kind of words they are using, and try to use the same kind of words with others, so that the conversation will be easy with others. And now be free to ask and learn about a word the other person uses. Then you can easily understand, you can learn a new word, how it is used in by that person. So, you should be free to ask any doubt about a particular word. And now, there are some do's and don'ts which you have to follow in formal and informal usage. Don't use contracted forms. Contracted means just like for example, for cannot, can't is a contracted form, and in formal language it is not very much advisable to use contracted forms, but in informal language you can easily use contracted forms. As you see here, I have lived in Pune for 5 years, that is formal language, whereas in the other way I have lived in Pune for 5 years is informal. Here contraction you will find I have is contracted as I have. Okay. Now, look at the another tip or which we have to follow. Here you will find a formal way of saying. Here G.B. Shah said that it was not good to speak English too well. So, George Bernard Shaw, a famous writer, said that it is not too good, it is not good to speak English too well when you go to foreign countries. And here you will find a conjunction that, it is a complex sentence. After the main class you will find the conjunction that. If it is written language you have to use that, but in informal language you can use this relative structure, the word that. So, you can say simply George Bernard Shaw said it was not good to speak English too well. If you speak like that, generally he says that they cannot understand you, and they may doubt your knowledge, and they may think that you are insulting them. That is what he said in his speech on broken English and spoken English. Now, look at another do and don't. You have to use whom in written form in a sentence. For example, look at this sentence, whom have they chosen for the post of president. That is the right way of using when you write, but when you speak you can use who instead of whom. Who have they chosen for the post of president. So, like this there are some exceptions, there are some facilities for the speaker in using the words and in using the language. Now, look at this one, formal and informal, some more do's and don'ts. Certain words are used in formal situations and like phrasal verbs. Here you will find in this sentence, the police investigated the recent train accident at Nellore. Here investigated is the right way of using the word in written form, but whereas in informal way you can say the police looked into the recent train accident at Nellore. Here both the sentence mean the same, but in written form we use a high level of word, high level of language is used in print media, but whereas in spoken media generally we use some phrasal verbs, so that it will be very nice to understand by the common people also, those who are well versed with phrases. Now, look at another example here, passive structures are used in formal. Here the beggar was given food, who gave the food was not important, the beggar was given food was important, that is why passive structure is used, whereas in informal way we gave the food, here the speaker is important, that is why he says we gave the food to the beggar. Now, where do we get formal and informal input? Where do we find the knowledge of informal and formal and informal input or knowledge. In generally in written content we find wherein in written content generally you find in personal emails, blogs, news and articles and books. There you find the written content, the formal way of using language, but in spoken content you will find the informal input like in movies, TV serials and video games, spoken news and radio talks and everyday conversations. Generally when you listen to everyday conversation you will find a lot of informal language which will be different, entirely different from written language, and you will find it a little bit difficult unless you are well versed with or acquainted with informal language. You can find this kind of examples in newspapers also very frequently. So, a student has to refer to newspapers, read newspapers regularly, so that he can find the difference between written and spoken forms. Now, look at this slide. In salutations generally we say dear Mr. or Mrs. or Miss XYZ, a name will be given generally that is in formal situations, or we can say dear Raju or dear sir. That is a formal way of saluting others, particularly in writing letters we address them, we salute them like that. But if it is informal and if it is not even though it is written sometimes, we say hi, hello Raju or dear Mr. Raju. Dear Mr. Raju is somewhat semi formal. That means, when the person is not very much close to us, we say dear Mr. Raju. If the other person is very much nearer to us, very close to us, very much acquainted to us, then we say hi or hello. Generally we say to our students and we say to our relatives or close people simply hi or hello. Okay. Now, let us go to the next point here. When we have some previous knowledge regarding written form, we say like this in writing letters, thank you for your email of so and so date, or we say further to your email. That means, when we respond, when we reply to others, we say like this, and I apologize for not getting in contact with you for before now. So, this is how we have to write in written form, and we have to say in formal way. If it is informal, thank you for your email and referring to your email, or sorry I have not written for ages, but I have been really busy. That is how generally we use language in formal and informal way. Now, let us go to the next point here. When you write some reason why you are writing to other person, you have to say like this, I am writing in connection with. So, when you have something to say and when you are referring to something, generally we say like this, I am writing in connection with your letter or your article, like this. Or you can say in reply to your letter, when you received some reply, you can a letter, when you are replying to that you say in reply to your letter. We would like to point out, suppose a point you have to refer to a point which the other person pointed out in his letter, you have to write like that. But if it is informal, just a short note about, or please note that, we say in informal way. Now, let us go to the next point here in formal and informal. To give information, when we want to give information to others, then we say in the written form like this, I am delighted to tell you that you have got a prize or you are selected for this job. And if it is negative, we say we regret to inform you that you are not up to the mark, best luck next time. Generally the banks, when you appear for a bank written test, and if you have not succeeded in that, you will receive a letter like that, like this, we regret to inform you that you are not up to the mark and best luck next time. like this. And if it is informal, good news, suppose if you are going to give the other person good news, simply you say good news, after that the news will be given to him. And if it is negative, unfortunately, we are sorry to inform you, like this we say. So, you will find a different vocabulary, a different way of saying is there in formal and informal language. Now, in writing or sending letters to others, when you attach something, you write like this: please find attached my resume, or I am sending you my photo. Okay. And sometimes if it is informal, I have attached, here is my photo. This is how we write in letters. And if it is informal, that means if the other person is very much known to us, we simply say I have attached, or here is my photo, like this we say. Now, let us see. And asking for information, when you ask information from others, you say like this in formal situations: could you give me some information about, or I would like to know about something, or I am interested to receive, or finding out, in receiving and finding out. This is how we have to use the language in formal situations, particularly in written form. And if it is informal, you say when you write to your friends or speak to others, can you tell me a little more, or I would like to know more, or please send me your resume, like this you tell to your friends or you write to your friends. So, you have to know the difference and follow them strictly in your formal and informal way of using language. And when you request something from others, in the formal way you have to say like this: I would be grateful if you could send me, etc., or I wonder if you could give me or lend me your camera for a day, or do you think I could have your camera, or lend me your camera for a day, or thank you in advance for help in this matter if I has already done something to you. And if it is informal, please could you give me your camera, or could you lend me your camera, or could you lend me your notes, or could I have your notes. We use these things to our friends, and I would appreciate your help on this. This is another way of informal saying. Now, let us go to the next one. Promising action. When you want to promise something to others in written form, I will investigate the matter, or I will contact you again shortly. This is how we say. And if it is informal, I will look into it, or I will get back to you soon. This is how we have to say. For all these things, the students have to look about the usage in print media, particularly in your books, and you have to get by heart, you have to use them repeatedly in your written forms or in spoken forms, then only you can master this language. And if you want to offer some help in formal way, would you like me to help you, or if you wish, I would be happy to help you, or let me know whether you would like me to help you or not. Like this we write in letters to others. If it is informal, do you want me to help, or should I help you, or let me know if you would like me to help you. So, this is how we say to our friends in speech form or spoken form. Now, look at this final comments in writing letters. Generally, we use these usages. Thank you for your help, or please free to contact me if you have any questions. My direct line is, that means the direct number is phone number or contact number. If it is informal, thanks again for your help, or just give me a call if you have any questions. My direct number is, like this generally we say to others in speech form or spoken form. And in closing also we use these usages. I am looking forward to meeting you, and give regards to our friends or your father, like this. Best wishes or regards. This is how we use in our formal way in writing. And if it is informal, looking forward to meeting you, or best wishes to your brother, etc., and speak to that means I want to speak to you soon, very soon, see you soon, bye for now, all the best. This kind of usages will be found in informal way. Here is a table, there you can find the formal, informal and semi formal usage of English. Here if it is formal, good morning sir, if the person is elder one, generally we say, and if it is our friend we simply say hi, and if it is somewhat the other person is somewhat known to us, but not very close, we say hello. And could I possibly ask you not disturb me, if it is formal, and stop disturbing me please, if it is informal to our friends, and will you stop disturbing me, it is semi formal. Could I speak to the president please, is formal. Can I speak to Kiran, if he is very much known to us, if he is our classmate, we say like this, and if he is not very much known to us, we say can I speak to Mr. Kiran, and I wonder whether I can have the appointment with you today sir. This is purely formal when we use this to an officer, etc. And shall we meet today or when shall we meet today is informal with our friends, and could I meet you sometime today is semi formal with people who know us a little. So, like this you have to look at the kinds of examples in written media and get by heart and use them, so that you can master this usage of formal and informal. Now, look at these examples of some informal English. Well, I think they should have asked us, you know. Here the speaker is somewhat delaying to say something. Well, I think they should have asked us, you know. In the second example, he is not well, I mean that means he is going to explain why he is or how he is not well. He is not, and he is very much tired, or he is very much tired, or he is very tired. So, he is giving the exact information a little later. That is why this is how language is used in informal way. And now, some more examples of for informal English. Everyday phrases like here you are, there you go, excuse me, come again, pardon me sir, and what do you mean, and so you are saying that. So, generally these kind of expressions are used very much in spoken form in our everyday conversation with others, and we listen to them very frequently. If you catch them and if you use them properly, your language will be good, and you can speak to others in a easy manner, and you can communicate with others in a better manner. And some examples for informal English also. Exactly, I could not agree with you more. This is one way of by the way or anyway, and see you, take care, and I am doing fine, what's up, what's up. See, in this example, what's up, that means what is up or what is the matter. This kind of usage is not heard in India unless you meet a foreigner. So, you have to listen to this kind of examples in video films or TV films, and now look at another example, what you gonna do. So, this similarly you will find in today in the speech of youngsters, see you. They say simply give a message, see you. Here for see you, like in another example, GR8, that means great. So, instead of writing great GREAT, they simply write GR and 8. So, that is how the language is modifying or changing every day, and people are using the language in informal way, because nowadays communication has got more important than, and people are using the written form very less. People are almost, they have forgotten writing letters to others. Everybody is sending messages and everybody is receiving messages. That is why a new coinage of language of words is very much coming into the spoken form, and you will find new usages. That is why the students must be in touch with this kind of language, so that they can find the difference between speech form and written form, but one must know the standard English and the standard grammar, otherwise they cannot write good English, and they may not be fare well, they may not fare well in the examinations, and we need the standard written form also, because we need to write letters and we need to write essays and we need to write so many other written forms. So that the students must have good command over grammar, and then only they can easily use the informal language also, but they will be good at written language. That is why the students must learn good grammar and they must have good command over English, then only they can easily manage with others in informal speech or informal language, and they will be they will find it very easy to speak with others in English, and they do not find it difficult, and they must cultivate the habit of speaking English with others. Otherwise, they because today unless you are good at spoken English, unless you are good at communicative English, you find it difficult to manage in the society, and you find it very difficult to get a job even. That is why the students must read newspapers regularly and watch good films, watch good English programs, then only they can identify the difference between the good English and bad English, as George Bernard Shaw said. But when you go to foreign countries, your language, even though it is not good in grammar, they can easily understand you and they can come forward to help you, as he funnily says. But it is always best to use correct English wherever you go and wherever to whomever you speak. So, I wish all the students learn good English and good at English and get good marks. All the best, my dear students. Thank you.